Welcome to Behind the Investigation with Atlanta News First Investigates. I'm Sierra Cummings. I've got our chief investigative reporter, Brendan Keefe here. How you doing, Brendan?
Great, Sierra. How are you?
Good. You've got a fascinating story because for so many of us, when we think about our power or our power bills, it kind of sometimes feels synonymous with Georgia Power, and we forget about the other power agencies in Metro Atlanta. This story is about the city of Griffin and how those utilities over there. It's a totally different system, right?
Yeah, and it's millions of customers just in the state of Georgia that don't have an investor-owned utility like Georgia Power. They get their power from their city, their local municipality, or from an electrical cooperative known as an EMC. It's a very large group of people, and they don't have the same protections. So imagine you depend on power for your life. You depend on electricity to run a medical device, and you get a collections call while you're in an ambulance on the way to the hospital. That's what happened to Tina Marie Marsden.
This tornado is a confirmed tornado on the ground.
Power lines down everywhere. There's houses that are damaged, buildings damaged.
This is a strong, powerful tornado on the ground right now in Spalding County, moving over the city of Griffin.
For all of us, a power outage during a storm is an inconvenience.
Yeah.
For you, it's life.
It's life or death.
More than 15,000 people without power right now.
Without that power,
My pump's gonna stop, and then my heart can stop.
These batteries power the heart pump keeping Tina Marsden alive 12 hours at a time. After the Griffin tornadoes, she was powerless for 6 days.
There was a Griffin fireman and his wife. They were like, you shouldn't have to be going through this, and we're gonna bring you our generator. And that saved my life.
The power line to her house, a lifeline.
Hello, City of Griffin.
I want to postpone this connection.
There is an order for it to be disconnected.
I can come home with a new prescription, and now all of a sudden I can't afford this prescription, so I have to decide between paying a light bill, paying part of a light bill to be able to get maybe a 15-day supply and not a 30-day supply of a prescription.
you're choosing between your heart medication and paying your electric bill that also powers the device keeping you alive.
Yes.
I have a heart pump that pumps my heart, and my power was turned off this morning.
Unfortunately, we don't do payment arrangements or extensions past the 7-day grace period.
You get a 7-day grace period to pay your bill. If you need power to live, you get one additional day.
1 day.
One additional day from that 7 days.
So you get 8 days,
Yes.
everyone else gets 7 days.
That's correct.
What happens if you don't pay the bill after those 8 days?
You're disconnected.
Did that happen to you?
Oh, that's happened to me, over 5 times.
The city of Griffin combines electric, trash, and water charges into a single bill. If you don't pay for garbage collection, they cut off your power.
And I need to be turned back on because I have life-sustaining medical equipment. Unless you're going to allow me to die at home, over $80.
So if you don't pay the $159.89, the services will not be reconnected today.
There's no law in Georgia covering these municipal electrical services or electrical cooperatives. They don't have to follow the same rules as, say, Georgia Power.
That is correct. So they are self-regulated in a sense. They are not governed by the PSC, the Public Service Commission.
Your protection depends on where you live. Here in New York, customers dependent on life support equipment get at least an extra 3 months to pay their electric bill, no matter who supplies the power. But here in Louisiana, it's a bit trickier because those extended deadlines don't apply to city-run or cooperative utilities. Same here in Ohio, where medical waivers grant at least an extra 30 days for life support customers of investor-owned power companies, just like Georgia Power. But electric cooperatives and city-owned utilities can leave life support customers powerless.
Their city commissions make their policies.
So you're dependent on the whims of city council
That is correct.
for your life.
That is correct.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the City of Griffin Board of Commissioners June 10th, 2025 meeting.
My name is Tina Marie Marsden.
Tina fought to get Griffin to add a grace period for medically dependent customers.
I was hospitalized 23 days last month.
But before the city commission added 1 extra day,
Hello.
Yes. This is City of Griffin. I'm the collection manager.
Tina got a collections call on her way to the hospital.
We don't do extensions past your 7-day grace period.
It's just a bad time right now because I'm literally in the back of an ambulance being transported to Atlanta Piedmont. I have to have power because I have a life-sustaining medical equipment. I understand you guys don't have a priority list. Like I said, right now it's not a good time. I only answered because I didn't know if you were my doctor's calling.
Okay, well, this account has till 6 o'clock today to be paid.
So when I'm in the ambulance, can you say that again? The sirens are on.
The account has until 6 o'clock today to be paid, or it starts coming up on the cutoff list tomorrow. The only way to keep it from going on the cutoff list, you've run out of your 7 days.
I told you I'm in the back of an ambulance. I'm a heart patient, so I'm telling you right now, I'm worried I have a blood clot in my heart. I'm worried about dying.
Okay, take care of your personal.
Thank you. And I'll pay 75% online.
Okay, that'll be fine.
I'm pretty sure you'll document this conversation.
Ma'am, I thought you were medically concerned right now.
Hold on.
Okay.
I am ambulance right now.
Come on,
So yeah, it's a problem. Because I'm having to talk to you, and I told you, I thought you were my doctor. That's the only reason I answered. And then to receive this type of service from the city of Griffin, that's a definite problem. So you're right. I'm worried about living right now, but instead of being able to do that, I'm arguing with you about an electric bill that I need service in order to freaking live. So you're right. So now you're on speakerphone with my EMS medical team in the ambulance traveling from Griffin to Atlanta right now. And I'll be sure to let your supervisor or anybody else know what additional stress you just put on me. I will talk to you guys when I get out the hospital.
I mean, Brendan, you really feel for Tina. She takes that call, as she repeatedly says, because she thought it was her doctor, but she's in the back of the ambulance and you can hear those sirens as she's trying to explain to them, like, I need my power, but this is not my priority right now. I'm trying to take care of my life.
Well, and to be clear, she's not unwilling to pay her electric bill. Tina says, look, I'm not a deadbeat, but she literally has to choose between her Entresto, a heart medication that's keeping her alive, and her power bill that's keeping her alive. And she is disabled. So she is on a fixed income and she has to make those choices every month. And she has to go without one or the other. And it's also important to point out that the collections manager didn't know she was in an ambulance when he made that phone call. But once he discovered she was in an ambulance, and at one point he kind of says, well, you take care of whatever your personal matters are and get back to us later. But he then still tries to extract a payment from her while she's in the ambulance, and you can hear the siren in the background. And the reason is because there's a hard and fast policy. There is no state law in Georgia currently. And in fact, there is no state law in all but 2 states in the United States that cover these municipal and electrical cooperatives.
And let's talk about that. So what's next? Is there conversation for the next legislative session to have some kind of regulation?
Well, of course, Tina's an activist not only for herself, but also for others with similar conditions. So she's a member of the American Heart Association, and she happened to run into Representative Marvin Lim, who's a state representative here in Georgia. They were at an event for the American Heart Association when she mentioned her plight. And he said, wait, this is something that can be fixed with legislation. So he filed a bill, HB 641. It is still pending, even though the legislative session is over, because here in Georgia, we have 2-year legislative sessions. So as long as a bill doesn't get an up and down vote or an up or down vote before that crossover day, it really survives into next year. So starting in January, Representative Limmick does expect to have a committee vote. And he does have co-sponsors, including the state representative who represents Griffin.
And it's not like uncharted territory, because in that story, you do the 4 different stand-ups kind of comparing the states. So just remind our listeners and viewers again how it really varies depending on where you live.
Yeah, and also because this is behind the investigation, you're like, wait, you flew to New Orleans and Ohio and New York City just to sort of emphasize the point? No, I like to turn disadvantages into advantages. I knew I was going to be in 4 different states for personal and professional travel over a week. And I was like, how am I going to get this story done if I'm on the road and in 4 different states? We were in New York for the National Emmys. We were in Ohio for my son's college orientation. We were in New Orleans for our investigative reporters and editors conference. And of course, I'm always in Georgia. So I thought, wait, let me just research those states and see what the laws are in those states, and then just show how they vary from state to state, and in how in some states you have that protection and in some states you don't. even in Georgia, your neighbor might have this protection because they have
Mhm.
Georgia Power, but yet you, right across the street or next door, might have an electrical cooperative or a municipal electrical supplier, and the rules don't apply to them because they're not regulated by the Public Service Commission.
And because this is behind the investigation, we love to pull back the curtain some. To give you some credit here, you were interviewing with Tina on another story, and you had the discernment to pivot because of what she was telling you. I don't know how comfortable you feel going into the details about the other story, but kind of let our viewers in on that. This was supposed to be a totally different topic.
Yeah, there's a saying I've been using for years: cover the story you find, not the one assigned. The assignment is not the story, it's the setting where the story takes place, the human story. So while interviewing Tina about Entresto, the drug she takes, because the manufacturer was trying to extend the patent artificially beyond the patent date so that she couldn't get a more affordable generic, in that interview, she was saying, well, I have to choose between my Entresto and my electric bill. And the more and more she talked about it, I said, wait, it's sort of like one of my mentors, John Larson, would say, freeze the river. There's this river of information coming at you. And when you hear something that is unexpected or interesting, you freeze the river and you explore it.
No.
And that's what I did. Let's explore this further. So right in the middle of the interview, I said, this is a much better story right now. We're still going to do the other story at some point. But this one, the story right in front of me, to ignore that would be like ignoring the Hindenburg exploding when you were sent there to cover a story about people flying across the Atlantic in a lighter than air craft, which is what the assignment was for the journalists that day. That's an obvious one, but sometimes it's less obvious and you have to be willing to pivot.
Obviously, this is an incredibly compelling story because you really feel for Tina. Any reaction from the city of Griffin after your story?
None since that, although I just came off vacation, so I do have to check my email. So there might be an email response buried in there somewhere. At first the mayor said he wouldn't talk to me. I approached him before a city council meeting. I said, look, I'd like to interview you about this. And he said, we can't talk about it because of pending litigation. And I said, oh, there's a lawsuit that's been filed? And he's like, no, but there might be. And I'm like, so you have a demand letter that's been filed? And he's like, well, no. A notice of intent to sue? No. But we might get sued. And I'm like, well, that's not pending litigation. And then he referred me to the city attorney. And the city attorney said, well, this issue with this HB 641, it's just a bill. I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, it's just a bill. We don't have to follow it because it's not law. And that's Representative Lim's whole point, is that it's really up to city councils, it's up to cities, it's up to electrical cooperatives whether or not to offer extensions. Some do on a case-by-case basis. And as a result, there is no uniform rule, and that's what he's trying to fix. Also the city of Griffin, the mayor came up to me after the meeting and just said, hey, there's two sides to the story. You don't know the other side. I'm like, great, we'd like to get your side of the story. And he kind of brought up an instance where Tina had actually gone into the emergency operations center during those tornadoes in Griffin a little more than 3 years ago now, and had demanded that her power be put on before everybody else's. And Tina says that's exactly what happened, but it's because she wasn't relying on light for convenience or electricity or air conditioning. She was dependent on that electricity for her life. And the firehouse that was charging her batteries for her LVAD, that was keeping her alive, those batteries were locked in the firehouse because they were out on a call. And so it really was desperate for her, but there was a sense that they see her as an annoyance rather than as someone with a legitimate need.
But you said it so perfectly in that story. Like, the power really is her lifeline, and it's not too dramatic to say that. Well, fantastic reporting. If people want to reach out to you, pitch a story, how do they do that?
Oh, you can go to atlantanewsfirst.com. You click on the Investigates page. You can always get us there. You can also get us at Investigates at WANF.com, and we'll all respond to it. I mean, we all get those emails. In fact, since it's behind the investigation, you and I and Andy and Harry and Stassi all kind of compete over who can open it first, because a lot of times there's some gems in there and we want to go dibs because a good investigative unit is always competing for the big story.
Yeah, we're always reading them, always trying to respond to every single person. Well, thanks so much for your reporting on this, Brendan. You have been watching and listening to Behind the Investigation with Atlanta News First Investigates. Be sure to watch or listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Thank you for watching ANF Plus. For more breaking news, live coverage, and your community stories, download the Atlanta News First app. You can also watch us on YouTube, Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. To join the conversation on YouTube Live, visit our channel and hit subscribe. You can also listen to the Atlanta News First podcast by searching Atlanta News First on your preferred listening platform.